Welcome to Exit Through the Gift Shop. Today we're continuing our Lost Attractions series by taking a look at the top 10 Lost Attractions at Universal Studios Hollywood. If you're new to the channel, please remember to subscribe and hit the bell so that you're notified as soon as we post a new video. Let's get started. First up, let's take a look at a couple of now retired sections of the Universal Studios tour. Debuting in 1974, the collapsing bridge thrilled guests when the tour guide tries to take the tram around a dilapidated bridge but ends up accidentally going right over it.
You people might be the only ones to see this thing standing again. Wait, Brian, you're not going to go over this, are you? Brian, I don't think it's safe to go over the bridge.
As the tram reaches the midpoint, the bridge begins to creak and shake, and massive timbers falling away, causing the bridge to suddenly drop out from under the guests.
It can be used as a flotation device.
Luckily, everyone survives, and the visitors get to drive past the bridge as it magically rebuilds itself for the next tram.
It's the world's only rebuilding bridge.
Although the bridge was retired in 2012, you can still see it standing on the Universal Studios backlot. Another classic part of the studio tour is the Ice Tunnel, which debuted in 1975 and was inspired by the Clint Eastwood movie The Eiger Sanction. The tour tram would ascend a snow-covered mountain before entering a 200-foot-long massive ice cavern. Guests would start to hear the ominous sound of the mountain shifting around them, and then suddenly realize that they were in the middle of an alpine avalanche.
If you find yourself getting dizzy, just close your eyes and hang on.
Universal employed a mix of special effects to help pull off this illusion, including the use of reflected forced perspective, which was frequently used by Alfred Hitchcock. They also employed surround sound with large bass speakers to create the rumbles that added to the disorienting effect of the spinning tunnel. In 1997, the tunnel was briefly rethemed to Dante's Peak, and in May 2001, it got its last retheming to the Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. Finally, in December 2013, this attraction was retired to make way for Fast and the Furious Supercharged. Next, let's take a look at what happens when aliens invade in the Battle of Galactica.
Blast us. We have a whole tram full of innocent people here. We're not going through your spaceship. We're going around it.
Our next attraction is another one that was part of the Universal Studios tour. In 1979, aliens invaded when the studio tour trams were hijacked by Cylons and taken aboard a spaceship which was about to take off.
I don't think the people back home are going to believe this one.
I am the Imperious Leader, and you are now under my control.
We're not under anybody's control, fellas.
You will be vaporized in 30 seconds.
Vaporized?
Centurion, activate the death beams. Escape is impossible.
Seconds before the departure, a colonial warrior comes to the rescue, brandishing a laser pistol and photon bazooka, and a heated laser battle ensues.
In the name of the Federation, I demand the release of the human.
Annihilate him. Stop it. Self-destruction activated.
Get out of here! This ship is gonna blow!
This high-technology attraction was the first to feature audio animatronic characters outside of a Disney park. It was also the first dark ride to combine sophisticated animatronics with lasers and live actors. The use of lasers in a theme park attraction was a relatively new idea at the time. In fact, the BATTLESTAR Galactica attraction only used 2 lasers, but gave the appearance of many more through the use of computer-controlled mirrors. In 1992, it was announced that the attraction would close in order to make way for the foundations of the show building that would house the Back to the Future ride. At number 8 on our list is the Miami Vice Action Spectacular. Years before Waterworld started its extended run, another live stunt spectacular was thrilling the audiences at Universal. Guests found that they had stumbled upon a deserted Caribbean hideaway which belonged to an infamous band of smugglers. But never fear, Miami Vice cops Sonny Crockett and Ricardo Tubbs had been staking out the hideaway, and now they're ready to take action. Launching in 1987, the Miami Vice Stunt Show was the most ambitious special effects presentation ever designed. Filled with explosions and pyrotechnics, this stunt spectacular was not to be missed. Each 15-minute show was packed with over 50 high-tech special effects and stunts, which utilized an exciting array of vehicles including boats, jet skis, mine cars, and even a helicopter. The Miami Vice Stunt Show thrilled audiences right up until its closure in January 1995, when it made way for the new Waterworld Stunt Spectacular. Unlike the film, the Waterworld Stunt Spectacular was well received and is popular with audiences and still runs at Universal to this day. At number 7, let's revisit a time of wizards and warriors with the Adventures of Conan live stage show. Back in 1982, before Arnold Schwarzenegger was a household name, he starred in his breakthrough film, the sword and sorcery epic Conan the Barbarian.
Universal Pictures invites you to journey back to an age of wizards and warriors, of Dungeons and Dragons, the age of swords and sorcery.
In order to capitalize on the popularity of the film, Universal created a live stage show that would be shown in the Castle Theatre in the Universal Studios Hollywood upper lot. With a budget of over $5 million, The Adventures of Conan combined special effects, pyrotechnics, laser technologies, and live actors into a thrilling live stage show. Accompanied by Red Sonja, Conan only has his strengthened sword to defend himself against the forces of evil. Guests watch on as the show culminates in an epic battle between Conan and a deadly fire-breathing dragon. Guests who witnessed this show remember it fondly, but sadly it closed in 1994 after a 10-year run. At number 6, let's hope things don't get too heavy when we experience Back to the Future: The Ride. On June 4th, 1993, at Universal Studios Hollywood, the Institute of Future Technology, hosted by Doc Brown, threw open its doors to visitors. However, it soon became clear that not all was well. Biff Tannen was loose inside the building and was dead set on stealing the DeLorean.
Tannen gets his hands on some of the equipment around here at the Institute. It could mean the end of the very universe as we know it.
Guests are asked to board one of Doc's new 8-passenger time vehicles and help stop Biff before it's too late.
Now that you're here, time travel volunteers, I can give you your pre-flight briefing. There's a lot you'll need to know if you're to successfully cross the space-time continuum. We'll have to hurry, though. The Biff's still all loose. Anything could happen. He's got the door. This is terrible. He's got all the time. You. You're my only hope. You've got to catch Biff. The fate of the entire universe rests in your hands.
An incredibly realistic motion simulator immersed guests in the 4-minute ride film, which had been specifically created for the Back to the Future ride and cost a whopping $60 million back in 1993. The ride film was projected onto the world's 2 tallest Omnimax theater domes, standing 13 stories tall. Each screen weighed 12 tons and covered over twice the area of a regular Omnimax film. During the course of the ride, guests experienced several different time jumps, traveling back in time 4,000 years as well as 25 years into the future before finally landing back in the present. The ride film took over 2 years to complete and was the first Omnimax film to be created using miniatures. After more than 61 million flights, the Back to the Future ride at Universal Studios Hollywood finally closed in September 2007. However, the version of the ride at Universal Studios Japan continued to run until May 31st, 2016. At number 5, it's Judgment Day all over again at Terminator 2 3D Battle Across Time. After Terminator 2 became one of the highest-grossing films of all time, Universal approached James Cameron for the approval to use the Terminator franchise for a live-action stunt show.
That's right. Cyberdyne. Bigger, better, and stronger than ever.
Cameron saw the potential in mixing 3D film with live-action stunts and special effects, and decided to turn the show into the official next entry in the Terminator franchise.
I said I'd be back.
Terminator 2 3D Battle Across Time saw the return of all the major cast members from Terminator 2, including Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator, Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, Robert Patrick's T-1000, and Edward Furlong as John Connor. The resulting 12-minute movie cost $60 million to create, which was the most expensive movie ever created per minute. After entering Cyberdyne's headquarters, guests are greeted by Kimberly Duncan.
I'm Kimberly Duncan, Cyberdyne's Director of Product Development.
Kimberly shows guests a promotional video boasting of the technical advances that Cyberdyne has been able to achieve,
Designed to make your lives better, brighter, easier, and safer. And we're ready to lead the world into a future beyond imagination. Our goal, complete domination of global communications.
but partway through, the feed is hijacked by John and Sarah Connor. They warn the audience about Skynet and the future war against the machines, telling them to get out of the building before they're too late.
Skynet is your enemy. It must be destroyed before it destroys us. Don't believe this cutesy pie video and their slick marketing. These corporate pigs aren't selling safety, they're selling death.
This is a warning from the human resistance. Cyberdyne is a menace. Skynet threatens the future of the human race. We're gonna stop it. You have 5 minutes to get out. Repeat, all civilians in this building have 5 minutes to get out.
After apologizing for the interruption, Kimberly ushers guests into a large theater where they're about to see a demonstration of Cyberdyne's newest creation, the Cyberdyne Series 70 Autonomous Infantry Unit, aka the T-70.
The Cyberdyne Series 70, ladies and gentlemen, working super!
John and Sarah arrive to disrupt the presentation, but are confronted by the T-1000 Terminator, played by Robert Patrick.
I tried to warn you. Skynet means the end of everything. Don't you understand?
Then Arnold Schwarzenegger's T-800 Terminator appears, bursting through the movie screen on his signature Harley-Davidson motorcycle to rescue John. He takes John back through a time portal and into the future to continue the war between humans and machines.
Come with me if you want to live.
Despite being pursued by several different Terminator variants, they successfully enter the Skynet facility and descend into Skynet's central core to battle the T-1000, a giant liquid metal spider-like entity.
LS2, liquid nitrogen.
All right, well, I'm apart.
I'll be back. Now go, run.
John is set back to the present time. The show ends with a ground-shaking destruction of Skynet, coating the audience with a rolling fog effect before jolting them with a sudden final drop. One of the most unique aspects of the attraction is the way that characters were able to transition between the film and real life. This was accomplished using two portals in the central projection screen, which allowed performers to enter and exit seamlessly. The entire screen sat on a moving frame which lifted up when performers needed to pass through and dropped instantly to hide their route. This same effect was used when the T-800's Harley-Davidson emerged and then retreated through the screen. Because of the precise timing required, the motorcycle is on a track controlled by a computer which synchronizes the movements with what's shown on screen. Terminator 2 3D Battle Through Time ended its run at Universal Studios Hollywood on December 31st, 2012. The Universal Florida version ran for another 5 years until October 8th, 2017. At number 4, keep your eyes peeled for walkers while we experience The Walking Dead. One of the most popular attractions at Universal Hollywood's Halloween Horror Nights was the Walking Dead Horror Maze. After running the attraction seasonally for a number of years, Universal worked together with AMC to expand it into a year-round attraction. They partnered with The Walking Dead's creative and FX teams to develop prosthetics using the original molds from the television series to make sure that the walkers in the attraction were as authentic as possible. The attraction combined live actors with sophisticated animatronic zombies, detailed set design, and props recreated from the original series, giving fans of The Walking Dead the ability to experience their favorite TV show in real life. The Walking Dead attraction ran at Universal Studios Hollywood from July 4th, 2016 until March 3rd, 2020. At number 3 is everybody's favorite extraterrestrial, E.T. E.T., one of the most beloved Universal Studios pictures of all time, holds a special place in the hearts of children of all ages. The E.T. ride at Universal Studios Hollywood asks guests to accompany E.T. on a brand new adventure. Guests are seated on ride vehicles shaped like pedal bikes, with E.T. sitting in the front basket. Riders weave through a realistic and detailed forest, evading police officers before taking flight and soaring high over the city and across the moon. After a sudden warp in time and space, riders are taken to E.T.'s home planet, where they get to see his friends before dropping him off and heading safely back to Earth. This dark ride was special because it recreated the characters and settings in extreme detail, and also the way it surprised guests by breathing some new life into the story with the inclusion of E.T.'s home planet. And another personal element to the ride which made it so special was the way that E.T. said goodbye to each of the riders by name. By the early 2000s, the E.T. ride at Universal Studios Hollywood was showing its age. The decision was made to replace the E.T. Adventure and use the show building as the new home for the Revenge of the Mummy roller coaster. At Universal Studios Hollywood, E.T. said goodbye for the last time in 2003, leaving the Universal Studios Florida version of the ride to be the only place remaining where you can experience the E.T. adventure. At number 2, we'll try to keep cool during Backdraft. The Backdraft attraction at Universal Studios Hollywood was created to allow guests to experience the excitement of the blockbuster hit film Backdraft, directed by Ron Howard.
What is a backdraft? Superheated gases, over 2,000 degrees, just waiting for a fresh breath of air.
In the staging areas, guests learnt about the art of pyrotechnic special effects.
It turned out the flames had gone through to the last layer.
They gave the flames their own personality. In fact, there was one that seemed to have a mind of its own. For without warning, it might suddenly turn on.
Guests are ushered into an empty warehouse set. A director yells action, and the tension begins to mount. Suddenly, the office ahead explodes into a fiery ball of flame. And guests can only hang on as they experience a terrifying 2-minute finale where the warehouse becomes a fiery inferno. The heat of the flames seemed nearly unbearable as fuel lines rupture, metal melts, and red-hot ashes rain throughout the structure. Fireballs engulf the warehouse, and suddenly the platform that guests have been standing on collapses. Leaving them terrified before they hear the director yell cut, and they escape back outside to safety. The attraction opened in July 1992 and was built at a cost of $10 million. All of the flames inside the attraction were real, and flame temperature reached 2,000 degrees. Although a curtain of water protected the audience, hot air was blown towards the audience as well to make them feel even more in danger. Interestingly, in September 1992, the attraction did experience a real fire when an air conditioning contractor accidentally set fire to the ductwork. 800 people were evacuated from the attraction in the immediate area. The damage from the fire was estimated about $150,000. And the attraction was taken offline for a day while they cleaned up the mess. And at number 1, hang on tight as we encounter King Kong. King Kong first roared to life on June 14th, 1986, unveiling the most complex animatronic figure in existence, weighing in at 7 tons and standing 30 feet tall. Part of the Universal Studio tour, guests were taken inside a soundstage filled with a detailed recreation of a New York suburb. Traveling along the length of a large bridge, the tram's passengers are warned by a TV news reporter that there's an enraged beast loose on the streets of New York. The footage cuts to helicopter reporter Kelly King, who spots the tram and warns us to get out quickly. Suddenly the news report cuts out and a damaged helicopter falls from the sky, smashing into some power cables and bursting into flames. The tram driver decides to move forward to get out of danger, but as you move forward, you see that Kong has a hold of the bridge. Terrified tour guests hang on tight while King Kong shakes the bridge and they get an up-close look at him and the smell of his banana breath. In fact, the shaking bridge was just an illusion. The tram sat on top of large Teflon plates that slid back and forth as Kong rocked the bridge. It was the bridge itself that moved. Kong merely held onto it and looked menacing. You can actually get an interesting view of the ride mechanism in the 1989 film The Wizard, starring Fred Savage. At the climax of the movie, 3 kids try to escape their pursuers by leaping from the Universal Studios tram and navigating the inside of the King Kong attraction.
Run! Down here, down here! Hurry, Jimmy, hurry! Follow me, Jimmy.
Sadly, the King Kong attraction was destroyed by a massive backlot fire on June 1st, 2008. Peter Jackson got on board to support the development of a replacement attraction known as King Kong 360 3D. The new attraction does away with large-scale animatronics and instead projects 3D imagery onto 2 200-foot wide screens that immerse guests with tram motion, wind, water, and even smell effects. So which of these Universal Studios Hollywood attractions do you miss the most? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, it's time to exit through the gift shop.